Hey, it's your Pan African World Diaspora Champion, Trish Adora, and you are watching O Face Wrestling.
Hey guys, it's your girl Red Velvet, and you are watching O Face Wrestling.
Hola todos, soy la fashionista Roche Chanel, and you're watching O Face Wrestling. Smooches!
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I am joined by Ariela Nyx. So thanks for joining us today, Ariela.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to learn more about you, and I'm sure all our listeners are as well. So let's get to it. So the first question, and this is the one that you probably get asked a million times, but what inspired you to become a professional wrestler?
It's weird because, I grew up watching wrestling, but I didn't really have that inspiration till I was older. And really, I started going to independent promotions, in my neighborhood, say maybe 10 years ago. And going to see those shows live is kind of what inspired me. Getting to see different people, getting to meet the wrestlers. It was a lot more intimate than going to say a WWE show or something like that. And seeing them wrestle and the shows that they were able to put on, it really expanded my horizon that there is more wrestling than just because I really grew up honestly just mostly watching WWE. So seeing that is really what made me want to the business.
Yeah, because I mean, WWE, I think 99% of us, wrestling fans or wrestlers grew up watching that. That was, pretty much all we had, after WCW and ECW, went out of business. I know Impact came along, but it took them a while to, gain some momentum. So, I, so you had mentioned that you were into the independent promotion, the wrestling and all that, for years. And also, I have to ask, because, when it comes to mainstream women's wrestling, it's really come a long way and it's really evolved from bra and panty matches to divas to actually women wrestling. How has it been in the indies? Has it also taken a big step forward, more opportunities, stuff like that? Or has it always been kind of a lot of opportunities and stuff like that for women?
It's definitely has grown. I feel there was always some from the beginning. I felt like in independent wrestling, from as long as I've been watching, the women were always given a chance. It wasn't like you said, the bra and panties and stuff like that. But now, especially in these past few years, it's really blown up. You see as many women as men on shows, women wrestling men, and just them getting the spotlight as much as we deserve. We've been fighting for this a long time, so I say it's definitely blown up. We always had a chance, I feel like, in independent, but it's really grown a lot in the past few years.
Yeah, see, that's the one thing that really intrigued me because I grew up in the '90s with, the Attitude Era, the bra and panty matches, and then when I took a step away from wrestling, around high school, then when I got back into it in 2010, that was the Diva era, which obviously wasn't a lot of fair opportunities for the women. So when I first had, discovered Paige, I was like, wow, she's so different. So I started digging a little bit deeper into the indies, and I started coming across, a Mia Yim, Athena, Evie, all these really talented women wrestlers. Wow, you don't see this in WWE.
Yeah.
So the indies wrestling, that's where it's at, with women wrestling. I was like, they really need to start signing these women. And obviously throughout years, they have signed a lot of them. But yeah, indies wrestling, it seems like they've always had that opportunity, and I never really officially knew. I thought maybe they were just those standout ones, but yeah, it is really cool to know that, there's always been a place for women's wrestling, and it's really nice that they're finally starting to get that opportunity on, a more of a spotlight, main event in WrestleMania. We're starting to see more women in AEW, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm happy, like you said, I grew up in that same era, and I think that's why I never really had the inspiration to wrestle, just because I only saw WWE, and women weren't really, unfortunately, they weren't wrestlers the way the men were. So it was I love it, but I'm just okay. And then getting to see that women actually do wrestle and they really do have opportunities, I think, that really helped with my inspiration, going back to your first question. But, it's really nice to see that women are getting the spotlight everywhere.
Absolutely. I know it was kind of a turn off for parents, when their daughters say, I want to be a wrestler, and I don't want to see them doing this kind of stuff. But now since, wrestling has really evolved, it's more accepting, when it comes to parents seeing their daughters do it, because now they actually see them actually wrestle rather than, just kind of the eye candy and stuff like that. So I think that's awesome. So now my next question for you, I want to know a little bit about your character. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, like I guess like my character was kind of inspired by the impression that people have of me when they don't meet me, which is weird. Like I've gotten so many times like in life that like, oh, I thought you were like such a bitch or something, but like you're so cool, like you're mad, like you're sweet, whatever. Because like I'm very just like kind of to myself. I'm not very outgoing, especially when I don't know people. So I just have a tendency to be reserved. So it's like people have that perception, and it's unintentional, but then it's like I said, people when they get to know, they're like, oh, like yeah, you definitely like your first impression was different or whatever. So I kind of played off that just to like be that really bitchy person that people see, and just to help like build confidence, like because I always wanted to be a confident person, so I used my character to help me build and be more confident in real life.
Yeah, because that's actually funny. Because when I first saw you at Primetime Wrestling almost a year ago, you were a heel.
Yeah.
You had that mean girl character, and then when I reached out to you in the DMs, be featured on the show, you were so super nice and all. And I think that's like the coolest thing when you see a wrestler on TV or in person or whatever as a heel, and then you like meet them in real life or video chat, whatever, like, and just seeing them just like completely different person. I always think that's such a really neat experience,
Right.
especially like doing what I do. You never really know what you're going to get when you record. Are they going to be that character? Because I've had wrestlers, they still carry over their character onto their recordings and stuff like that. So it's like you really
Yeah.
never know what you're going to get. Kind of like the whole Forrest Gump box of chocolate kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I know that you've also managed, so tell me a little bit about being an in-ring manager for, a wrestler. Like how differently do you have to prepare yourself and kind of stuff like that?
um I mean, it's different just because obviously you're not wrestling, so you don't have to do as much physically for the most part. Sometimes you might get beat up depending if, you get caught acting up or something. But, it's somewhat the same preparation because you have to know, even though you're not wrestling, you need to know what's going on and you need to know what's happening throughout the match. And, you're there to help whoever you're supporting. If they get lost or something like that, you have to know what time or where you guys are to help them out and know your cues. And at the same, again, you're not wrestling, so you don't want to take away from the wrestlers, but you still want to help tell their story and make sure that you have a purpose of being there at the same time. So it's different, and with the physical aspect, but you still have to play the character and know what you're doing and tell that story and not take away from people, and be confident to be in front of a crowd and that type of stuff too.
Exactly. And like I feel like it's really important to, be a good character as a manager, even more important than if you were a wrestler, because that is what you're doing and you can't just be like the shadow on the side. Like you have to do something to make yourself noticeable. Usually it's required to be like good on the mic because that's also usually important. You're kind of speaking up for the person that you're managing and stuff like that. A good manager could really make, a wrestler look even better. Like we've seen, Paul Heyman do it for all these years. Zelina Vega was a beast at doing it, in NXT. So managers definitely have a very important role, and when you do it right, you could be even more interested in the person you're managing, which is very interesting.
I know sometimes I used to get more heat than my client or whatever. It's like, sorry, I'm able.
You're doing something right.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to know, where did the answer to your prayers come from?
It's funny just because like I was trying to figure out what my wrestling name was going to be, and I had one name chosen, but then I changed. Because originally I was looking at Alana, but then Lana and Rusev blew up, and I was like, that sounds too like her, and so I was looking up different names, and there was one name I didn't like the name, but the meaning said like answered prayer. And I was like, oh, like I know my character is going to be very egotistical and bitchy. And I was like, oh, the answer to your prayers, you always hear that saying. And I've never heard anybody use it in wrestling. And I was like, that sounds like something my character would say just to like be so into herself. So I'm like, I'm going to run with it.
I like it. It sounds very like heelish, very confident, and I know I like it. I think it just really vibes well with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I want to know, tell me a little bit about life as an Indies wrestler. Like, tell me about the good, the bad, like, what do you go through on a daily basis as being a wrestler?
I mean, I love it. It's, I mean, it could be tough at times, like the traveling and stuff. Like, especially like for me, I work a full-time job. So it's like, you work during the week, you got to try to get to training, you got to get to the gym, things like that. Then you have, like, before the pandemic, I was blessed enough to be wrestling every weekend. So, it took a toll after a while. It's like, you don't get a chance to break and rest as much as you need. So like that can be like I would say that's like the negative part. Like if you just have so much going on at once, like you don't get the chance to like really just calm down and relax. So that would be like the biggest, I guess, downfall, if anything. But, just getting to meet new people, getting to go new places, things like that. Like it's been a great experience so far.
Yeah, like that's one of like the coolest things is you get to travel all over the world, all over the United States, sometimes different countries. Like I think that has to be a really
Hopefully
cool
soon,
thing.
different countries, hopefully soon.
Yeah, I know that that tends to be on a lot of wrestlers' bucket lists, and I know a lot of the wrestlers I talk to really want to travel to the UK.
Yeah, that's a
I know.
goal of mine at some point.
Is there any other countries that you're interested in wrestling in other than UK?
I guess the other bigger one would be Japan, just because like I've learned a lot about Japanese wrestling in the past couple of years, and like those women are so tough and badass. So one day, hopefully, I'm worthy enough to get there.
Yeah, they're really like every one of them like they're strikers, like they really kick hard as hell, like
Yeah.
I like the different styles that you see in wrestling, like you got the lucha, the Japanese style and all that kind of stuff, and it's really cool seeing like the different cultures and all kind of like blend in, and
Mm-hmm.
you get a little bit of everything. And yeah, I definitely like the Japanese style wrestling. Seeing a lot of the ones that have come, to WWE, like Asuka, Io Shirai,
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie Sane, so on and so forth. Like just so many talented, women in
Yeah.
Japan. It's crazy. And what is that promotion? Stardom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about them. I have not gotten the chance to really
Yeah.
fully check them out because there's so much wrestling nowadays. It's impossible to kind of like keep up. But my one friend keeps saying,
Everything.
"Check out Stardom. They're so awesome. Best women's wrestling out there."
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now, for my next question, so if a trainee that came up to you and you could give them any piece of advice, what would be the number one advice that you would give them?
Um, don't give up. It can be tough, like, especially if you have a grueling schedule. Sometimes we've seen there's a lot of negativity in wrestling and people always trying to cut each other for opportunities, things like that. And, people will try to like get in your head just to mess with you, things like that. So just, if this is really your dream, don't give up, keep going to training, find a place where, you're comfortable at, because that really does help a lot too. If you're training at a place that you don't like, you're not going to want to go, you're not going to want to progress, things like that. So, just stay focused and, stay true to yourself and don't give up.
Exactly, because I mean, wrestling, it's a grind. It's not as easy as getting into like football and all, and then it may be hard to believe for some people, but like you and you're at your high school and all, you have these sports that you can kind of get your name out there and actually get the training. With wrestling, you have to search for the school, find the school,
Mm-hmm.
go through all the training. I know it's not easy, and as long as you really put the full effort, and like you said, don't give up, you can do it. It's just it's definitely a struggle, and I know that can be a turn off for a lot of people. Like I've heard stories, people do it for a few weeks, can't do it anymore. It's really
Mm-hmm.
tough on the body, mentally, physically, all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So now for my next question, what is one thing about yourself that's non-wrestling related that you would want your fans to know about you?
I don't know. Let's see. He says something non-wrestling related about me. I don't
Yes.
know. I don't know.
Are you a big Star Wars fan?
I'm just getting into Star Wars because of the Mandalorian, because I love Baby Yoda. You can see my Grogu shirt. I never really did grow up liking Star Wars. I don't know. I just never really got into it. But like I said, now because of the Mandalorian, I'm kind of like enjoying it more and learning like the history and the stories of Star Wars. So I'm a new fan. Like I said, just Grogu. He's just the cutest thing in the world. So
Yeah, there's nothing
so
wrong with
more of
that.
a
I mean,
Grogu.
Baby Yoda
Yeah.
has definitely, caught the attention of a lot of people. And what's crazy is I grew up a big Star Wars fan, and I
Mhm.
still am to this day, but it actually took me a while to actually even try the show. I
Mhm.
don't know what it was. I just was not motivated to see it. Like I wanted to, but it just when I
Okay.
finally actually started watching, I was like, why did it take me so long? This
Right.
is
Yeah, they've
so
done a really
great.
good job. Like it's really well. Like the cinematography is amazing. Like it's a really good show. Like especially for somebody like me that didn't really watch a lot of Star Wars. Like I understood most of it. There's a couple things I'm like, wait, who's that guy? Like it took me a while to know who Boba Fett was. I'm like, oh, now I can appreciate him more and stuff like that. So I thought they did a really good job overall.
Yeah, they did an excellent job, and I feel like you didn't really need to watch the movies to kind of get into this because it was a
Hmm.
completely own separate thing. Basically, they had
Yeah.
some things come up that you would probably want to know within the Star Wars universe and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really mandatory to watch the movies or anything like
Yeah.
that. And there's a lot of movies, and they're all very long, so it kind of would be
Yeah.
overwhelming.
That's true.
But now for my last question I have for you. So now we are in 2021. So what are your wrestling goals for this year?
Um, just to wrestle again. I haven't had a match since March. So, I mean, I'm back to training and stuff like that. But I just want to start doing shows again, and hopefully things will open up and I'll get to like continue going new places. Like that was like the big goal of 2020 before everything went down, just to get new places, travel more, wrestle new people. So, hopefully first get back to doing shows and then from there just keep growing, getting my name out there and, just get as many places as I can get.
So I'm assuming your last show was at the Primetime Wrestling.
No, it was actually the week after. I
The week
defended
after.
my PvP Women's Championship and retained. So now I've been a champion for over a year.
Oh hell yeah!
So yeah, March 14th was my last show. So like, all right, it's time to get back. I was able to actually do a show in December. I did the Synergy Women's. I hosted the show. I didn't wrestle on it, but it was nice just to be back, like in that environment, getting to be in front of the crowd again, and so it was fun. Like, it was cool ring announcing. Would love to do it again and would love to host a show. But I'm like, all right, now it's time to wrestle. I'm like, all right, I gotta beat some
Exactly.
people up now.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping because, like, I live in Maryland. There has been no wrestling in Maryland for almost a year. I don't think there's been anything in Washington. I've been
Mm-mm.
having to travel to New Jersey to actually watch wrestling, but now
Yeah,
since
Jersey's the
it's
only place. Like New York City's not having anything.
mhm.
Yeah, it's hard. Like Jersey's the only one where I've seen some shows and stuff. So, I don't know. It's gonna be a while. I still think too for a bit, but I don't
Yeah, I
know.
don't think we're gonna see anything, at least in my area, until probably spring. I think
That's
they're
what I'm
gonna let
thinking.
that vaccine, get out there a little more and
Yeah,
stuff like that. Because especially now, because numbers are going up with the holidays and all just passing and stuff like that.
same.
So it's
Yeah.
gonna be a minute, but once when
Yep, and
wrestling
now I
gets
just saw right
starts,
before we got on this call that New York just had their first case of the mutated one, the newer one that's kind of coming that you've heard from the UK. There's like a mutated version of COVID-19. They just found somebody in New York with that. So I was like, oh,
oh
here we
god,
go. So yeah, I don't know.
yeah, that's the
It's
scary
a
thing
while
because
before we know
like.
what normal is again.
I just and I tell everyone like when things do get back to normal, it's gonna be so weird. Like it's not gonna feel normal because like we don't have to wear a face mask anymore. We
Yeah,
can
it's
go
weird.
watch a movie at the movie theaters and stuff like that. Like it's gonna be weird, but it's gonna be.
Yeah, like I don't think it's ever going to be the complete normal that we know. Like I think there'll be like some form of new normal, but I like the 6 feet apart. I don't like people on top of me. So if we could keep that, I'll be good.
I'm the same way. Like I've been like this my whole life. I'm very claustrophobic with people. Like I don't
Hmm.
like being surrounded by people.
Yeah.
So it's just like I don't mind that. But the crazy thing is, like at least at my work, people don't know what social distance is. Like, okay, bro, you don't need to be this close to me. Like people just got
Yeah.
way too comfortable, way too fast. Once when everything started opening up, people were like, oh, it's getting better. Everything's cool now. And
You know.
nope, there goes the numbers back up.
Exactly. I get it. You want to go out. Like I've went out, go out to eat with friends, things like that. But you got to be responsible with stuff. It's not over by a long shot. So, and like you
Exactly.
said, people are not taking it seriously anymore. And now look, we're all spiking again. And now there's a mutated version. And, you know.
And I did not know that until you just told me too. So I
Oh
was
wow,
like,
really? Yeah, there
yeah.
was like
So
some in the UK, and like I said, literally maybe like a half hour before we jumped on here, I read that New York had its first case.
yeah, I heard about the UK. I just assumed they would like ban travel from UK, but
Yeah,
I
I don't know, but this guy, the guy that they're saying has it, didn't travel anywhere, so I don't
yeah, it
know.
could just be mutating here,
Yeah, that's
which
probably
is
it.
scary.
Yeah.
So everyone thought when 2021 hit, we would all be safe and
No.
everything's behind us. Nope, it's not
Yeah,
done.
no,
It's
I didn't
not
have
over
that
with.
thought. I was like, I hope by the end of 2020 we'll be, a lot better place than we are now. But it's not going to change from 11:59 to 12 o'clock. We wanted to hope, but yeah,
Exactly. We can only hope. So
yeah.
you not wrestling since March, is that kind of like a by choice thing, to be cautious, or is that just kind of, you know, having a
It's a
hard time
little,
finding?
little bit of both. I was supposed to do a show back in like July, but like I hadn't really been to training, and it was still kind of like going up. So I was like, I didn't feel prepared to do it. Like, especially I hadn't been in training in a couple of months. So I was like, I didn't feel comfortable doing it. And now, like I said, there's not a lot running and stuff like that. So it's like in between, it wasn't trying to, even now, like I would love to get a booking, but I'm not trying to work every weekend now yet and things like that. So, it's a mix of both. Like trying to find stuff now is a little bit harder. And like I said, just because it's not a lot running and, it's hard to travel places too at the same time. And, just, yeah, like I said, a mix of both. Just, always being cautious too. Like if they're not like asking for COVID tests prior to the show, like if they're not expecting the talent to be tested, I'm like, no, like, I gotta make, I want to make sure like if I work for a place, they're taking all the precautions as possible, for the fans, for the talent, the staff, everybody. It's important. So,
It is very important too, because who's to say the person that you're in the ring with doesn't have it and doesn't know it or stuff like
exactly.
that. Like some of the events that I went to in Jersey, like the wrestlers and all the fans are walking around. It's outdoors, but they don't have their face masks on and
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. And some wrestlers are really strict too. They're like, hey, you could take a picture of me, but you got to have your mask on. And then other wrestlers, they kind of like lean on you and put their arm around you, no mask and
Yeah,
stuff
like
like
I
that.
felt bad at like the last show because it's like you want to lean in, you don't want to be like rude, but it's like everybody had their mask on and stuff, so it was fine. But it's just like I'm like we can't really hug or whatever. And even they told like the promotion even said that they were like you're not allowed to like physically interact with the fans and stuff like that. So they were even being strict about it. So
Yeah, exactly. And my friend, she wrestles for MCW, and she had told me like back before they officially like kind of like canceled everything, she had said like because one big thing about MCW is a lot of the wrestlers actually walk around and engage with the fans before the show. She said they're not allowed to do that. They had to wrestle with face masks, all their training, face masks, stuff like that. So like some promotions are extremely strict.
yeah, and you
And
gotta be. So
exactly, like you don't want the talent getting sick. You don't want your fans getting
yeah.
sick. It's just
Yeah,
you have to go.
wrestling's a physical sport, so we're gonna be on top of each other, so we need to be as safe as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Ariella, I think that concludes our interview. It was really fun.
Oh,
Definitely.
yeah, I had a good time. Thank you again for having me. So.
Absolutely. So do you have any upcoming merch or some social media that you want to share with all the listeners? Let them know where to find you.
So I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Ariela Nyx. My name, very simple. And I do have a website for merch with like t-shirts, pins, 8x10s. It's arielanyx.bigcartel.com. So got some shirts up there and stuff. You want to support me. Appreciate you guys.
All right, make sure you all check out all her social media sites. Also, check out her merch. I will have all the links in the bio below. Make sure you give us a sub on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and thank you all for listening.